people in
True
there.
story.
That's funny. All right.
We got it ready to go, y'all?
Yeah, I've got the stream initiated intro.
We have a solution. The Whine No Whine Show, where you can be friended and offended all in the same hour, where we gather people from all different walks of life and perspectives, and we talk about everything that everyone has told you not to. Religion, politics, and everything under the sun. Nothing is off limits, and we do it all over a glass of wine. So grab a glass and join us as we save America, one civil conversation at a time.
3, 2, 1, action!
Hello, social media world. I can't even say hello Facebook anymore. I used to say hello Facebook, but then we're on like YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and...
Twitch.
Yeah, it's a Twitch. There's a Twitch out there. You know what's funny is I had a young millennial girl on the show a couple weeks ago, and she laughed when I said Twitch, and she said, "Oh, I just thought you like messed up a couple different words together in one, you know, like Twitter and something else." And I said, "No, that's a thing." I'm like, "I have to revoke your millennial card. Give it to me." So, but anyway, we're all over the place now. So, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Whine No Whine Show, the only show where you can be friended and offended all in the same hour. America, we have a problem. You know what I'm talking about. I call it the zero to Nazi effect. This is in any given discussion where there's a disagreement, especially on social media, is the length of time it takes to go from 0 to you're a Nazi. I will now punch you in the face and go outside and set fire to your car. Because that's how we disagree in America. Well, we have a solution here on the Whine No Show.
Wine no show. The wine better not no show. Drink up.
Which glass was that? Number one. Wait, yeah, the other glasses were small. I don't even practically count them.
Hey, mine's kind of empty.
I gave you just a little. She was already warning me. Keep the wine away from her. Welcome to the Whine No Whine Show. Holy cow. Yes, like herding cats. On today's show, we have a really fun topic. And the topic is so fun that we discussed it last night. And I said, you know what? We just didn't have enough time to go into it all last night. So we're going to dig into it a little more. But we added a nuance tonight. Was America founded on Christianity? And does God belong in government? That's a very specific little nuance over what we had last night. What are your thoughts on the subject? Chime in, let us know what you're thinking, and we're going to bring your comments into the show. Just as important as the guest on the show, you have a vital role in the show. So be sure to share your comments. And while we won't get to all of the comments on tonight's show, I will tell you that I address all comments in the feed, which takes me like 3 hours Saturday after the show. So chime in and share your thoughts, and I promise you will get a response from me or someone on the staff, but 90% of the time it's me, because I don't pay them anything.
And we're looking forward to it taking 4 hours, right?
Right. Looking forward to taking 4 hours. On today's show, we are having a tasty wine, the Spartan Hills Montepulciano. I love saying that word.
Yeah, Montepulciano.
Montepulciano.
Somehow, every time I'm here, you have some wine that I would have a really hard time saying, especially after drinking it.
Right.
It's
That's why I
Italian.
introduced the wine at the beginning of the show. I don't stand a chance at the end of the show.
It's Italian.
It's an Italian. It's an Italian grape. The wine is
Yeah.
actually a Californian wine, but it's an
I'm
Italian
out.
grape. Yeah. Poor Scott. Scott doesn't like red wines. This is a very
Or
mild.
California.
Oh, well, yeah. True story.
Scott's introducing a new nuance to the show.
Right.
Whining over the wine.
Whining over the wine.
pretty
No
amazing,
whining
dude.
about the wine on the no wine.
the no wine, no show.
Right. Wow. Spartan Hills, Montepulciano, California, 2016 wine. This is a red wine. And it says, while Italian wines are generally, this particular Montepulciano wine offers aromas of flavors of earth, smoke, and leather, this version has a full, delicious, fruity flavor. There's mouth-filling blackberry pie, a hint of baking spice, and brown sugar.
Whoa, maybe I chimed in too early.
Right?
Blackberry pie.
Right?
Your mind changed almost as fast as Joe spilled the wine on his pants.
Yeah.
Almost.
Right there. Black cherry and smooth round sensation on the palate. The wine is a medium-bodied and is low tannins, which you will appreciate. Scott is not a big red wine drinker, and it's the tannins that he normally does not react well with.
What's the alcohol content?
What kind of girl?
Not enough.
Is it ever?
What do you need it to be?
I think all the viewers want to hear you say the name 3 times fast.
Meanwhile, her husband, who is in the room, is staring me down with evil eyes.
Well, his eyes only cut to you after the Scott for saying my kind of girl. He's like, no, that's my kind of girl.
Yes. So at the end of the show, we will rate the wine,
Okay.
right? So as you drink it, kind of get a rating in your mind because we will run out and we'll start drinking box wine, and you'll forget all about how it tasted. And you're like, well, that box wine kind of sucked. I give this a 2.
We won't remember anything anyway. After this, we won't remember.
Right, exactly. That's freaking awesome. There's also a method to my madness. We rate it at the very end of the show after everybody's had like 5 glasses of wine. So anyway, that's what we're drinking on the show today. Heavy duty topic. Was America founded as a Christian nation? And does God belong in government? This is a big, big topic, folks. And I think it's one of the most relevant for today's political climate. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest to first introduce themselves and let us know who you are. And this is the shameless plug section of the show. So feel free to promote whatever you would like to promote. Try to keep it under a minute, minute-ish. And we'll start with Scott.
All right, Scott Apley. Shameless plug. Go Rockets. Good
Yes!
job for the Houston Rockets last night. And then I'm going to start shameless plugging. Well, hold on. Let me start over on that. My shameless plug.
That was almost bad timing there.
Is
We just surpassed our R rating, didn't we?
on June the 18th, I will be starting a live internet radio program.
Oh,
Get out!
6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Right on.
On the internet station is called Raging Elephants Radio.
Hold on. You're going to be on at 6 p.m. on a Friday.
Well, but I got plans.
Okay. Yeah, making sure.
So I'm excited about it. I have absolutely zero technical expertise, so it should be very interesting. I'll set goals as I go along, and my very first goal is not to be as bad as Alec Baldwin was on his first time on radio. As long as I can get past that.
Set attainable goals.
That's
right. See how
worthy goal.
Admittedly, that's a low bar.
It's attainable.
But it's,
Right.
yeah. After the first one, we can say, look, he passed.
That's right. I was better than Alec Baldwin on my first show.
I just want to be better than one of Alec Baldwin's voicemails. That's
Oh. Zing. All right.
All right. My name is Ruth Armfield, like an arm and a field.
A field of arms.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing that I'm doing basically is the Latino Liberator, which is a show that I'm trying to teach Latinos about conservative values and free market enterprise, and explaining to them why they came here, which they know. But,
I'm already preparing.
But mainly, why they want to stay conservative and uphold those free enterprise system. Okay, so I'm a mother of 5 boys. I want to do this.
Another clinkable moment.
Clinkable moment.
I wanted to clink to your cause.
Thank you. Okay.
Certain party seems to think they own votes just because
Exactly.
they're Hispanic.
So I am a mother of 5 boys. They're all teenagers and up now. And I am involved in a Republican club called the Denton County Republican Assembly, which hopefully, you know it?
Yeah.
Okay. Which hopefully I will be the next president coming
right.
up.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've been nominated. So.
I'm about ready to sign up for the fan club.
Right?
Right,
Right.
yeah. Anytime. So, yeah.
So be sure to check her out, guys, on YouTube. She's got an awesome YouTube channel, does some great stuff. Where can they find you on YouTube?
It will be in YouTube. The channel is called Latino Liberator. And that's
Latino
all.
Liberator.
Exactly.
For all my Caucasian friends.
Exactly.
That's right.
White
Yeah.
people.
What did she say?
It's
I like what she's saying, I think, but
All the
And,
gringos.
it's a-
yeah.
it's
I don't know why. I don't know why, but I have this overwhelming being compelled to learn how to salsa dance.
No, I thought you were going to learn Spanish.
Yo comprendo español porque yo soy chingón.
Muy bien. Oh, really? Oh, cool. That's good.
Muy
You'll need to
poquito
bleep that out on
español.
the
Poquito. No
translator.
comprendo. No comprendo.
No comprendo. I literally all I remember from French class. That,
French?
yeah. Je ne sais pas.
I
Just-
should say, yeah.
I don't know. Mr. Orsak, how do you say blah 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 blah?
Je ne sais
Okay.
pas.
Okay.
¿Por qué? Oh, muy bien, muy bien.
Je ne sais pas.
Pretty much that face too.
Yes, yes. That's how it went. All right, Dr. Houston Vetter.
I presume.
I
Hi,
presume.
everyone.
You have to say that.
Don't say Houston, we have a problem.
No.
I've never heard that, by the way.
No, never, never.
What I do is I help businesses get more customers and more capital. We help move business to the next level, both with streamlining their processes and helping their people. Because if you move your processes up where you're operating at a higher level and you don't move your people to the next level, then you're not at the next level. There's too much stress and pressure on the people. If you move the people but not the processes, they can't do their job. So that's what I do. If you want to make your business better, call Dr. Vetter.
Ooh.
Oh,
Oh.
nice.
Forget the clinkable moment. That's high five right there, man.
That means
good.
that means I've been to a network meeting or two.
Right.
We're better with the V.
So you're not a real doctor?
Sounds like I am.
I've been wondering. I've been thinking. I was like that. I was like, that's a curveball.
Like, I thought he was
You're not a real doctor.
I think Joe's wine rating just went down a few points.
Higher and deepers. That's all I got.
No, I'm not. I just used that. Sounds cool.
You're gonna have to give 2 wine ratings, one for the wine and one for your backsplash, the backwash.
That would be so. I'm just going to start using the term doctor. You're not a real doctor? No. I like the way it sounds.
Why did I think that you were in genetics or something like that?
I don't know.
It was like your
Yeah,
face.
Yeah,
was
it's genetics.
weird.
She asked me when I came in.
I love that.
So you do
Yeah.
genetics and biotech
I
stuff, and I'm
know.
going.
In your Facebook page.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I do.
It says I have 3 PhDs, 3 piled higher and deepers. One in comparative religions,
Okay.
one in psychology, one in sports and energy medicine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Wow.
And it
know,
it
smart guy.
sounds like it's big in a bunch, but it's not, because it's the same exact thing explained in different words.
Gotcha.
It's exactly
There we go.
it's the same thing, just different words.
That's the way you do it. Good job.
Mr. Pipkin?
How do we do this again? I've never done this before.
Uh-huh.
Hi, folks. David Pipkin, the resident constitutionist on the show, also one of the original Grape Heads. I'm speaking to that kid
Yes!
right there, right? We're good?
Yeah.
All right. My shameless plug, this might ruffle a little bit of your feathers here, because
Okay.
one of my missions right now in life is to rid the world of these terms of conservative and liberal and all this stuff, and let's all get to constitutionists, right? Where this is a little booklet from the Heritage Foundation, Declaration of Independence and Constitution together. And I recently, as of this month, became the coordinator for Harris County for the Constitution Party of Texas. And I'm very proud to say that we have our Facebook page up and running and already getting that going. Next meeting is on June the 9th at an undisclosed location, which we will reveal to you if you go to the page. You can find the page Constitution Party of Texas Harris County. Okay, that's how you find me. And just hit the like, send me a message. We'll be happy to give you more information on the party.
Absolutely. All right. So,
I didn't do it right. I wasn't holding my glass when I talked about
Pinky,
it.
pinky up.
pinky out. Yeah. When in doubt, pinky out.
Whole other
I'm a
saying
natural.
for
I'm a
that.
I'm giving my
Flex on
Instagram friend some promotion there.
You can do the pinky and flex, right?
Right.
Hey, I can do it too, eh?
All right.
I
Hey,
can
Yours
try.
is better than
Look,
mine.
you're really good if you can like sneak your arm in there where nobody notices. You're like, hey, that pinky.
I would flex. I just want to break the glass. You know?
Right. I understand. Yeah.
This is like a show about Pinky and the Brain.
So,
What we going to do?
serious topic. Serious. We got to get.
We've only got 13 more minutes before we start talking about the topic. You know.
Concentrate. You should do it.
Kittens, please.
We have no fun on this show, folks.
I always like to point out to the viewers that this is currently making no sense to that we started drinking an hour before the show. So you're way behind the curve right now. So some of you guys just got off work and you just now poured your first glass. Oh, we're on like our third or fourth. So catch up.
It's more adventurous if you start drinking before you get here for the show. That's
Oh!
No. I'm just kidding with that. That's not funny.
So here we are on the show. We've got a very, very serious topic today. Was America founded on Christianity? And very importantly in this topic, does God belong in government? So, bullet point, minute summation of your thoughts on the subject. Scott.
So, we have two questions there, right? The second one is certainly worthy of debate. Does Christianity
The first one, however, is not.
have a role in government? We can
I agree.
discuss that. There's probably whatever, but there's no point in framing the question: was America founded as a Christian nation as a debate topic? Because it's so indisputable. If you can read, if you can understand history and understand the documents of the founding fathers, there's zero doubt. They talk about the need for morality in our government and everything, that every single form of commerce, law, everything is based on Christian Judeo values. So there's no debate on that. So I don't know how we're going to fill that part of the hour, but we can talk about whether or not it belongs in
Depends
government.
on if Corey Commodiner tunes in, because Corey, being a very steadfast Christian, also has a view that America was not founded as a Christian nation, and he said it was founded more on a Masonic principle and some other things, but that there's only one Christian nation, that's Israel, and goes into a whole different angle of kind of dynamic on what it means to be a Christian nation. And so there are people that will debate you on this. And then there's our good friend on our Wine No Wine Show group, which if you aren't in yet, you need to hop in, Joden Malik, who completely does not acknowledge that we were founded as a Christian nation. He's an atheist. And he offers his point of view on that subject. So there are people that will disagree with you, Scott.
We jab a little, me and that guy. I don't know him, but I don't think he likes me much.
Wait, he disagrees. Yeah,
He's actually the topic for a whole other show
Yeah.
to himself. I mean,
Yeah.
and I say I like Joe. But
Joe,
Well,
he's always been pretty nice to me. I don't really have. He's not like overtly, attack you as a person. So that's one major positive for him. We completely disagree on everything else, but
atheists normally like me because I tell them, I say, I can take the Bible and prove that God's an atheist. He didn't believe in a higher power.
That's good. That is good.
that is good. That's good. All right, Ruth.
Okay, well, my belief is that, yes, this country was founded on Christian principles, even though the founding fathers were deists, which basically is God created the world and then he kind of stepped back and left humankind do whatever they wanted. I don't think that happened, because why would he send Jesus Christ, to live among us? I mean, that shows right there that he didn't leave us alone. So I don't believe on that. I believe that this is a country founded under God. It's in our money. Okay, it's all over the Constitution. And even though the founding fathers were deists, they expressed that philosophy throughout all the documents that they wrote. And then you had the equality of man, and it's again under God. So it's all over the place. It's impossible to deny it. Okay, you had to get rid of God.
Some people will deny it, whether it's based in any kind of logical argument or not. For me, is a different story, but
it's written down.
people do.
Now we have the other side of the fact that the founding fathers, like if you talk about expatriation, which is basically coming into this country, okay. So like Thomas Jefferson said that it doesn't matter what religion you are from, you should be taken in by this country, okay, and accepted in this country. Even it doesn't matter what religion you're from. So it's that fact also that we don't have to be a Christian nation only, okay, but this country was founded on Christian principles, okay, and because of that, I believe it should be still kept in our politics, okay, because if you look at also history, Constantinople, brought Christianity into the country because Christians are good people. Christianity works. So yes, definitely, I want America. I love America. Being a person from another country, an immigrant from Argentina, I believe, in the principles of what America stands for. And definitely, if I love America and we all love America, we should definitely want some kind of system under God that works.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Vetter.
Okay, well, look at history. Where did the founding fathers of the nation come from? Was it an atheist nation? Was it a Muslim nation? Was it a Buddhist nation? Was it a Christian nation?
Christian nation.
Christian nation.
Okay, so by default, their normal concept, their upbringing, the model of society, the model of thinking and thought that they have, is going to be based in what they originally came in, which was Christianity. Okay, now since they were deists, an interesting thing about deists that people seem to miss a little bit, okay, and that would be that, which answers the second part of your question, is should God be in
Government.
in government? And my statement is, if there's humans in government, there's no way God can't be in government, because a deist concept is that God is in you. If you're a Christian, guess what the basics of Christianity is? What Paul said is Christ in me, the hope of glory. Paul wasn't a Baptist. He wasn't a Catholic. He wasn't a Church of Christ. He wasn't a Methodist. He
Catholics
wasn't,
will tell you he was a Catholic.
Yeah.
Baptists will tell you there's no other religion.
Right.
No. I was raised in the Church of Christ. See, the thing I like about Church of Christ people is they're honest. They'll tell you all the other fundamentalist religions believe they're the only ones. They're the right way. But Church of Christ not only believe it, they'll tell you to your face, if you don't believe what we believe, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's that joke that when you go to heaven, there's this big wall, and it has quiet, please. And so you ask St. Peter, what's that sign there for? He says, that wall. He says, oh, that's the Church of Christ. They think they're the only ones up here.
Yeah. Don't tell them. Yeah.
So the concept is, if you're looking at it from the deist concept, which is similar to a Buddhist concept, or which is similar to a Taoist concept or anything else, is that it's all about what's inside you, then you cannot have a government without having God in it. Because everywhere you go, guess who goes with you? If Christ is in you, or if God is in you, wherever you go, who's with you? So whatever you say, whether you mean to or not, guess who's behind it?
All right. David.
Well, this is one of those shows that we're about 4 hours short on necessary time, right?
Yeah.
Just for the first part of the question alone.
Yeah.
Have a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. But
drinking. Oh,
to tag on to Scott's
We have
point.
had 2 hour shows.
Yeah, we have, and
We have
it may.
had 2 hours.
We have a good time here. But to tag on to Scott's point, I absolutely agree that anyone who has just a basic U.S. history 101 understanding and knowledge, I mean, all you've got to do is read the Declaration of Independence. And actually, this point occurred to me last night after watching the Artist Edition last night, is that when you stop and think about this, I know Steve, this is for you, brother. I know Steve likes to bring on these constitutions and Declaration of Independence, so I know you weren't here today, so I filled in for you, brother.
He's representing for you.
I'm representing for you, man, and I hope you're feeling better. But the point is, when you read those words that are in the Declaration of Independence, that was the end of a long, arduous discussion that they had about these things. And with all of the things, with all of the issues they argued about why are we breaking away from England and what is the kind of government that we want to set up if we're going to declare our independence, they came to this statement: we hold these truths to be self-evident. In other words, with all the things that they discussed, all the things they argued about, the one thing they all agreed on is that, well, several things they agreed on. One, there's God. Number two, he made us, right? And number three, because he is holy, 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 he is the origin of our rights. There was no debate about that, and it's right there in our founding documents. There's numerous other facts of history that point to the fact that we're a Christian nation, to the point of, and this is very timely, because I just did a post earlier this week, and you know my penchant for remembering quotes. It's it lasts about as long as that wine does, right? But I just happened to come across some information on John Jay, who was America's very first Supreme Court justice. And what's amazing is he is known for a quote where he says, you know, with our reliance on, and I'm paraphrasing, with our reliance upon providence, the capital P, right? He says Americans should select and prefer Christians as their representatives, as their rulers, right? Because the understanding is, apart from that, what is your morality? If you don't believe in heaven and hell, if you don't believe in a state of eternal consequences for your actions here on earth, then what is to keep our representatives from taking actions that benefit themselves to the detriment of everyone else? What's the morality? What is the anchor? What is the foundation to that rule of law that we have? And it's undisputably Christian. And then my last point is to the point about the deists. I commend you for your proper definition, because many people get that wrong, because that's what it is. It's like God spun a top, everything's in motion, okay, I'm good, and God walks away and he's done, right?
Playing poker.
Well, a lot of people talk about the least Christian of the founders and try to extrapolate those to the rest of the founders, right? When you talk about the number of the signers of the Declaration and the number of ratifiers of the Constitution. But the reality is that they are right when you look at Thomas Jefferson and we look at Ben Franklin. Those are two of the least adamant, you know, out there proponents of Christianity, right? So with that said, keep in mind it was Ben Franklin who was a deist, but not in that definition. Because he's the one who stood up during the Continental Congress when they're quarreling about, actually I'm sorry, the Constitutional Convention, when they're quarreling about our Constitution, and called them to pray. And he said something, again, I can't remember the quote, but he said, I have lived, sir, a long time, and I believe and I have seen that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a bird cannot fall to the ground without his notice, then can a nation rise without his aid?
Well,
now, hold on. So if that is one of our least fervent, least, what's the word I'm looking for, evangelistic, active Christians, if he's one of the more deists of the founders, can you imagine how on fire for the Lord the rest of the founders were? That's my argument. Absolutely, to John Jay's point, if we're going to have moral representation, we need to have God in government. Now, we can't dictate to our representatives how they worship. That goes to the First Amendment, your freedom of worship. How to worship, or even whether to worship. But there's a reason that it took until 1960 before we elected a Catholic president. We were very much founded upon the Protestant Christian beliefs, and that's why, I mean, we had a president here or there that was, you know, not Christian in that regard. But by and large, absolutely, they were of the Protestant faith.
Okay. I can't possibly...
deist still believes in God, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No doubt about that.
You have to remember that God is all powerful, and
they still believe those.
Omniscience, you know, he's everywhere, and he wants to, he can, you know, step in anytime.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: I can't do justice to Joden's point of view because it is so disconnected from my own. But in trying to bring out a logical point, right? Because this, for me, was there is some relevance to at least the question of this. If our founders were so Christian, and there was so much evidence in their belief, and I mean, in reality, I mean, there's like, you can point to 3 people, maybe one of those is questionable, right? Of the people who were connected to the building of our government, who really weren't strong, believing Christians, right? And even with the deist thing, I've done a lot of research on this, and it's really misapplied to a lot of our founding fathers.
Right.
But even accepting that as a premise, right? It's so evident to me. However, he made this point, and this to me was a point at least worthy of being asked. He dismissed our atheist friend in the Whine No Whine Show group dismissed the Declaration of Independence as a Dear John letter, right? It was just a see you later.
Dear King George, this isn't working out.
Yeah. Right?
It's not me, it's you.
Right. Right. And so, okay, like I'm not going to give any real credence to it at all as far as any kind of a founding document or a founding thought or otherwise. Now, for me, that was massively disconnected from any kind of reality that is, who our founders were and all that kind of stuff. But fine. Right? So we'll take that off the table. His point was, they started the Constitution with "we the people," right? And he argued that rights stem from "we the people," right? The people argue for what is our rights, and they decide on what our rights are, and then we institute government to ensure the will of the people, right? And we had a major point of contention on this because I said no. I mean, they stated it plainly. I mean, they said, we always used to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and because they're created equal, I didn't say that part. It's the assumed part. It said that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. So they were very clear where rights came from. But nevertheless, he's arguing rights come from the people. However, if you read the Constitution, there's nothing in there about God. There's nothing in the Constitution about God. And so his point was, they over here in this Dear John letter, they talked about, God and where rights came from and all that kind of stuff. But when it came to the real important stuff, when it came to the legal binding contract of how our government was to be built, there's to that stuff. There's no mention of God, and it starts off with super capitalized big letters, "we the people."
Okay.
So if you guys are saying we have a Christian nation, God belongs in government, or does, that's debatable. You can chime in. How do you justify, or how do you argue your point when the Constitution has no mention of evangelicals of the day were upset that there was no more clear argument about Christianity and Jesus being involved in the government?
I think Ruth wants to say something.
Yeah. How do you chime in? I yield.
I kind of got a sense that Ruth had something she wanted to say to that.
I yield the floor to y'all.
All right, so be the Latino liberator.
I'm not getting in her way.
I am based on on the human rights. But you say, these rights are, basically by God. No, I mean by humans. No. These are rights given by God to human beings of life, liberty, and property. So the whole thing, the whole Constitution, every law that we should have should be based on those three principles, three rights, human rights given by God Himself. So you cannot get away with the fact that they are from God, and I think the Constitution says that too. So it's pretty clear.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Unalienable
that's a hang-up
given
point.
by God.
So,
it's in the Declaration of Independence, but it's not in the Constitution.
Yeah, I've got a point. I'll address that, but yeah.
I think it all has to do with context, right?
Yeah.
So in context, you have this Declaration of Independence where we declare all the things that we've already talked about, right? And so part of the introduction to the Constitution is to secure the blessings of liberty.
Yes.
Well, what are the blessings of liberty? We already mentioned that in the Declaration of Independence, right? And so it's very clear that, if you want to, if your objective is to separate Christianity from the founding of the country, then that's what you do. You separate the documents out of context.
Yeah.
But if you take all the writings of all the founders, why they got to the Declaration of Independence, how
John Jay was part of that.
How they got from the Articles of Federation to the Constitution, then it's very clear that one was in context to the other. And then we the people, I think that this is like some of the brilliance of our founders, and that is this. Like they had plenty of occasions where they were biased towards Christians. Like, in other words, you couldn't do certain things if you weren't Christian. But we the people, and like freedom of religion, freedom of all these things, because they know that to violate one man's liberty or freedom is to violate your own, or to open the door for your own to be violated.
Yep.
And therefore, we the people, I cannot enjoy my liberty unless I'm willing to let somebody enjoy theirs.
It's all about respect.
And all about free, free dominion, choice, free will.
I'm listening to this, and I hear your statement from what your friend says, and I think humans are so beautiful. You know why?
Especially me.
Well, of course.
We're wonderfully made.
Well,
I'll drink to that.
But here's the beauty of humans, okay?
Yeah.
Whether he's an atheist or he's a Christian, he uses the same tactic. What he did when he said "we the people,"
point.
when he says "we the people," in Christianity we would call that proof texting. In other words, I picked this text out to defend my position and show you that your position is wrong, and not take it in the context of what was written there. Okay, you know, there's one scripture that says, "Go thou sin no more." You know, but it depends on where you put the comma.
That's fine.
It depends on where you put the comma as to how it reads. It could read, "Go thou sin no more working with your hands." So it depends on where you put the comma. So it's a matter of proof texting. And when you said that, "we the people," I thought, wait, you can't proof text. You got to do the whole thing.
I would agree. It's very hard for me to argue the point.
That's right.
But I felt like it was a valid point.
No, it is.
assert.
It is a valid point.
And to the point that in the day that it was written, the evangelicals of the day were upset.
Right.
They were upset. They were like, hey, where's all the Jesus talk that we had going on, y'all? Y'all left this out, y'all. So there was it was a recognized
well, they were upset
point of
on
contention.
both sides of that point too,
Yeah.
because there were some that were like you said, where's all the talk of God, and then there were others who were going,
There's
hold
too
on.
much. There's too much.
Well, because when the Bill of Rights came out, that's where the Danbury Baptists ended up penning
Right.
their letter to Thomas Jefferson, going, hey, is this a right granted by government? Because there were certain religious denominations vying to be the official religion of the United States of America.
Well, when you're done, I want to say something.
Yeah, well, my point on...
And we have comments ready too, by the way.
Yeah,
there's some comments to be addressed.
Well, to round this
Go ahead.
out, my point to address the point at hand is, I'll call again to empirical evidentiary history, and it's very, very unfortunate, and it's really a sign of our education system and how bent they are against this narrative, that they won't show evidentiary facts that show the point. In 1892, most Americans are sadly unaware, but the U.S. Supreme Court cited in a ruling that America is a Christian nation. And in that ruling, they went so far to make the point that they provided an evidentiary-based history lesson going all the way back to the time of Columbus coming to America and going through the various constitutions, and to the point of, does God belong in government? There were even, you saw this on the post in the Whine No Whine Show group, there were even several states, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Maryland, I think, where each of them had a clause in their state or Commonwealth Constitution that unless you professed a belief in the Almighty God, unless you professed a belief in the Holy Trinity, and unless you professed a belief in the state of heaven and hell, right, because of eternal consequences, you couldn't hold public office, you couldn't serve in the military or serve on a jury. Okay? Now, that does not deny your right to be a citizen, because when I brought this point up to our friend, who will remain nameless from now on. No, I'm just kidding. His point was, oh, so now you're saying I can't be a citizen? No. Yeah. That's why America was the haven for religious refugees from all over the world.
You just can't hold public office like the Pentecostal holiness can, because they only believe in one. They don't believe in
right.
So we have,
let me wrap that up. I'm sorry, because I know he's trying to get to
Yeah. So just to say, as soon as he gets done, brief comment. I'm going to jump onto the comment feed and then address a couple comments.
Yeah. So that just wraps up the point that it's not saying that you can't be a citizen here, and we're not a theocracy. I think that part of the disconnect, to wrap this up, is that as I was watching the show last night, the Artist Edition, talking about this, what happens is people internalize the question rather than treating it like an evidence-based question that calls for concrete answers based on known facts. It comes down to, well, we can't be a Christian nation because Christians are hypocrites. I heard that comment, right? Or people saying, well, no, I think I heard that and there's no thought or evidence going further to question themselves. It's just, well, I heard that the founders were all deists, or that a lot of them are atheists, and they just repeat the narrative, and there's no research going on to actively investigate, hey, is this position I have true? And I'm a huge advocate. Do your own opposition research. It's not for the public square to make you right or wrong. You should have that answer before you bring your argument to the public square.
Absolutely. All right. Brief response.
Nice.
Three basic points that I want to cover. Okay,
That was good.
so yes, so we the people. Okay, well, people were created by God, the Creator Himself. Okay, deist. That doesn't mean that they don't believe in God. They actually believe in a Creator.
Yes.
Okay, God, the Creator. And then, why would the founding fathers put freedom of religion in there? Well, because they, in their historical
Religious
point of view,
persecution.
okay, and what they were living, they knew that America was founded and the pilgrims came to America because of persecution on religion, because England was, the Church of England basically was controlling everything, and they couldn't worship God anymore.
It makes a lot of sense,
Okay,
doesn't it? A bunch of
so-
atheists fled Europe so they could worship God in the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
No, but they came to America to be able to worship God. I think the founding fathers did not want to give the power to a government
Correct.
to tell us what to believe.
They didn't want the
Okay.
church being an arm of the government.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, at the end of the day,
exactly
it's really simple. The context of freedom of religion was one sect of Christianity would not enforce itself on all
everybody
other
else.
sects of
That's the
Christianity.
whole point.
That's the whole context. That's really what it boils down
Very
to.
well said.
So, all right.
That's
so,
why you're the moderator and the host.
And the way
So-
it's set up now, whether you're a Christian or believer or not, you don't get the government's set up not to come down and eat
Special
regardless.
treatment or harsh treatment.
Right, regardless.
Although it doesn't
Exactly
seem
right.
that way in today's.
Before
All
we go
right,
to the
except
comments, we
for-
got to say
it
the
seems-
Whine No Wine Show was created by Joe Orsack and endowed by its creator. Okay,
Certain intoxicating
I'm not going. Yeah, with certain intoxicable rights.
certain intoxicable.
Wait. Who made grapes?
All
Who made grapes?
That was a
Yes,
good
yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah.
And he
Hey.
drank wine.
Well, he made wine if he made grapes.
My heretical statement of the night is that Jesus' first miracle was to be a bartender. So
That's right.
And he made the best
The
wine
best!
of the whole party.
the best. I mean, they absolutely partied and got
Yeah, but-
trashed on it.
But you can't tell it because if I was really drunk, I'd say this is the best I've ever had.
But the guy who's running the party, who's responsible for
he
bringing out the
probably still
wine,
sober. Yeah, he was sober.
he showed up and like, dude, why are y'all serving the best
That's
of
not the
last?
last.
That's not how it's supposed to work. I mean, you bring out the good stuff early on, then they give them the junk, you know. So speaking of giving the junk after, see, we got the box wine is busted out.
This is exactly the opposite of how Jesus did it.
right.
Or no, actually, it's the same as Jesus did it. The best stuff was first, and then the box wine. Which we'll see which is better. Stay tuned.
Do we have the Phil and Derek's up tonight?
Yep.
All right, so we are going to break for a brief commercial, literally 1 minute. So I need you guys to stick around. This is a sponsor of the show,
I'm not leaving.
Phil and Derek's. We have like
Where's the box?
mad love
There's
for our
wine in the box.
sponsors
We're staying.
because they are putting their money where their mouth is and supporting the show because they believe in the mission of the show. So check out the commercial when we come back.
Commercial.
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 That's a
Wine,
commercial made by
good wine.
Kermit.
All right, commercial. That's a deep south. My redneck is coming out after the third or fourth glass of wine. When we come back from the commercial, we will have at least 3 topic or comments that have been selected by our production crew, and we're gonna address the comments. So, is your topic, is your comment making the cut? We'll find out when we come back from a word from our sponsor.
Phil and Derek's Restaurant and Jazz Bar, located in the midst of bustling Midtown in Houston. You'll find a laid-back atmosphere and ambiance reminiscent of the comfort of your own living room, coupled with the flair of pizzazz and glitz from live New York-style cabaret entertainment 7 nights a week. Phil and Derek's is not only the ideal restaurant with a great, long-standing wine selection, but also with a full bar as well. Phil and Derek's stock and knowledge of wines from Napa Valley wines, French Bordeaux, Spanish and Argentinian wines, just to name a few, are the envy of wine connoisseurs far and wide. Phil and Derek's Sunday Brunch was voted best morning after brunch for 3 consecutive years. Come indulge in the ample buffet of crepes, omelets, various salads, meats, complimentary mimosas, and much, much more. Enjoy delicious foods from the kitchen until midnight. We're equipped with large dining areas, ideal for every party need, whether business or pleasure. Come see and enjoy all that Phil and Derek's has to offer.
It's a whole new experience to have a commercial break in the show. I mean, we've only been doing this for like a month now, and there's all kind of commentary that's now happening during the break, which is a whole, like, we need to have.
You should have been here.
Right, you should have been here.
No, you
Right,
missed
we
it.
need to have another show.
Commercial. They didn't need to see the commercial.
We need to have another show of the during the break comments, right?
What did they say off the air?
Right. So we had a lot of fun. All right, so we have our production crew has selected the top comments for our panel of guests to address. And Jordan Anderson he made the first cut. Jordan Anderson said, "Unless you can say that you would want all aspects of God in government, you would be choosing which parts you would want applied. If you are deciding which parts of God you want in government, then you have decided that only certain morals or teachings are worth following. At which point is the reason for God in government? At which point, what is the reason for God in government if we are capable of defining the standards on our own?" Very interesting angle.
Well,
all right, so let's address that.
My first
panel.
thing I'll fire at, and I'll be quick, I promise.
All right.
Unusual, I know. But that last statement
I know.
is the linchpin to the whole
I think
comment.
so too.
Because here's the thing, Jordan. What and now people hear this question again that there's an emotional response, okay? I want to be clear with Jordan that I'm not making the argument that atheists cannot be moral, okay? Any human being, and I contend that any human being, because of the fact we're created, and it's a self-evident fact we're created by God, that we have his fingerprint upon us, and that's how that morality gets imprinted. You don't have to get taught, moral teachings to know that when someone cuts in front of you in line, that something wrong has happened, right? C.S. Lewis makes this point in Mere Christianity. So
I argue against it. I mean, in order to make the argument, you have to acknowledge the creation. So
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying though, is that we recognize morality whether it's actually been formally taught to us or not, and I contend that when you recognize a law or something that exists outside yourself, because we didn't create that law, this is not an instinct. Very often the moral decision is something we're being prompted to do apart from our instincts. That's the point C.S. Lewis makes in Mere Christianity, right? If you see, I won't go by a house that's on fire and I know somebody's inside, well, my instinct for self-preservation is going to say, run, get out of here, right? But there's something beyond my instinct that goes, hey, you need to go and check and make sure everybody's okay. That's the moral thing. That's not an instinct. You can't have an instinct helping you choose instincts, right? And so when you say defining the standards on our own, that's the question. What basis for morality grows out of atheism? Again, hear that question. I'm not saying you can't be a moral person and be an atheist. I'm saying, what is your basis for morality? You don't have one. If we came here by some unguided, undirected process, cells just magically mutated and all of a sudden we had human beings, where's the moral foundation for that? How does a moral law emanate from that process of creation?
And if you don't have a moral guideline, then you have moral relativeness. And if you have moral relativeness, then we're all our own gods.
That's right.
And then how can you have a society that operates under a standard of laws and moral precepts?
And we know that murder, theft, and adultery has prevailed in every society as being against that society's moral laws.
All right, so
There's
my
culture.
comment to Jordan, it would be that if you go back and you think, what was the first sin? Man's first sin was basically, the tree of knowledge, okay? So basically, man is putting, humanism basically,
Right.
putting himself in the position of God. Well, that
I like her.
does not work, okay? So you gotta, if you think about the values, okay, well, there could be different values. If you're gonna base everything on humanism, then the values could vary. I mean, I would think I can kill somebody because I'm.
Why are you pointing at me?
What you got?
So, you
What's
you
your
can
t-shirt?
kill, you can, nothing, there's no
'Cause you're
limits of what you can
comfortable
do.
with
Okay, so you can now have a society that functions in that way. Okay, so values had to be, at least for myself, and like you mentioned, okay, we as human beings have been created by God, okay, and we kind of run through a manual, okay, and what works and what doesn't work, and those things that work are what the values are, and humanism just doesn't work. It didn't work from the beginning. That's why we are all in trouble from humankind's history. So
I'm on. We have. We're going to go to Samantha's comment here real quick.
Samantha.
Yeah. So Samantha's is the significant other of one of our production crew.
Yeah.
But before I say
Ashley?
that, yeah, right.
Just kidding. I'm sorry.
So before we address that, I want to toss this out as kind of a challenge thought here. Is to say you gave the example of cutting in line, right? And there's an immediate reaction to something wrong has happened. All right. So I'm saying I've been schooled in martial arts. I have 2 different black belts. I'm proficient in multiple different weapons. I'm going to break your leg and leave you on the side of the frickin' line if you don't like it. I step in, and I'm superior to you, right? And I'll demonstrate it. You're done. Oh, it's wrong. On what basis?
Yep.
On what basis is it wrong? I've just demonstrated I'm superior to you. I broke your leg. Right? You are out of the line. I don't need you in the line. All right? I have taken your place. I'm obviously a superior being to you. So on what basis will you argue that it was wrong? Right?
Well, that's really the only moral law you can get out of
As a matter of
evolution
fact,
is survival of the
if you
fittest.
try to say it was wrong, I might just
Right.
take the other leg.
That's right.
I'm going to limit your ability to say that I'm wrong. Right? I'll move to other areas of your body. Right? I start off with the legs just because I was polite.
So violent.
And
So-
if you actually look at what Darwin wrote, all they're pushing is one part of what Darwin wrote.
Yeah.
The other part of what Darwin wrote lines up more with Christianity, taking care of others, being compassionate, things of that nature. Reading Samantha's question here and speaking to Jonathan's questions before,
Okay.
I don't know that anyone here is advocating a religious government.
Nope.
No,
Not
and real quick, I wanted to
that
finish
bears
my point,
definition.
and then I wanted to finish my
Go
point
ahead.
and then turn
And
it over
that's
to
the
you guys.
major confusion.
And so
That's
Yes.
the point.
my point to that was to anybody that wants to pose no God in government, there, all this sort of thing. I would say if you want to argue a moral law, and it was kind of almost rebutting your point that an atheist could be moral.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can be moral in any way, shape, or form unless you acknowledge an opinion higher than humans, because if there is no opinion higher than humans, my opinion is equal to yours. And actually, mine can be superior to yours if I can demonstrate that I am physically, mentally, or otherwise superior.
Right. I
Right.
think
So-
the point that they're making, and the point I was making too, is to say, because I agree with you fully in everything you said. If an atheist was true to the atheistic morality, right? Because there is no guiding process. There is no moral lawgiver. So what is your foundation for morality? If they were true to that, you would be living that by what you just described. I'm superior to you, so I win, right? And that's the point.
Explain to me otherwise.
Now, my point is that people are saying, well, you're saying that without religion, atheists or whoever else, agnostics, whatever, can't be moral. I'm talking about they can choose to behave in a moral fashion to conform to society, but that moral fashion won't come from atheism.
Right.
There's no anchor to morality that, in fact,
And that's my point.
even the Bible supports that.
Yeah.
I
As a
can't
matter
remember
of
what
fact,
book
that's
it is.
brilliant,
That's
actually,
it.
because it actually probably comes from the culture, right? You're raised to understand it's bad to punch people, and where does our culture originate from?
Well,
Right,
just to
right.
wrap up that point, the Bible says that if there is no resurrection, eat, drink, and be merry, because you live today and tomorrow you die.
Yes.
Right?
Every
So
culture,
I
whether,
think
it was,
there's a testimony-
whether it was Christian or not,
Okay, sorry.
every culture, whether it was Christian or not, had morals.
Yes.
Had nothing to do with the religious or whatever, etc. Every group, throughout history, every one of them, and even today, even the ones that you don't like, they still have morals. Well, there's religious, spiritual.
There's a tie-in. Just a second. There's a tie-in to that.
I have to wrap up my point, and I promise I'll shut up.
No, it's not that. This just to
I'm
tie
talking
that
too
back.
much.
No, not at all. Let's just try that back because the point of that is that it's not to say that you can't have morality apart from religion in society. My point in citing that earlier was to say that whether these societies that we know of throughout the history of the earth have acknowledged God of the Bible or not, every society has shown his fingerprint in the fact that every society has said murder, theft, and adultery, right?
They're wrong.
They might vary on how many wives you can have, but it was always wrong to take another man's wife. Right? It was always wrong to steal. It was always wrong to kill someone unjustly. Now, there's nuances in there that may have varied.
Right.
But it was always wrong. And I'm saying that doesn't come about because there isn't God. It comes about because his fingerprint is on us.
Right. And I totally 1,000% agree. All my point is really driving home that point in that if you are an atheist, if you do not believe that there's a God that all morality stems from, you have no basis to argue any morality at all. That's my point. I said I'll break your leg, and shove you out of line. Tell me why that's not right in any way, shape, or form. I've demonstrated my superiority.
Ruth.
And so my point is really proving y'all's point in saying there's no atheist that can argue any morality at all anywhere. So for any form of government that doesn't involve a theistic foundation, because at the end of the day, we all have equal opinions, and my opinion is just as valid as yours. And so if I can break your leg and shove you out of line, well, okay, too bad for you.
And we're creating meanings for words that have applied us. An atheist may not have the same meaning for the word atheist that we have for atheist.
Well, and why should they subscribe to that?
Are you all right, Joe? Okay, so look, I want to address Samantha's comment.
Or
right. Never. It's not going to happen, right? She had a longer comment though, right?
One before that.
Well, yeah. Okay. So Samantha said, well, if you think back during the time of the Revolution, the point of going to America was to escape religious persecution. My gosh. The people were used to a corrupt government where the church had a major hand in everything. The church had so much power they could override the king if they didn't like him. That is why separation of church and state is so important. Sure, they themselves believed in God and believed that we all had God-given rights, aka rights we are born with. But they wanted to avoid a religious government. All right.
But that's not what we're talking
There's a contention I have with her assertion there.
But
I think it's definition and terminology. I think we probably believe the same thing.
Yeah. We're not talking about this.
You.
We're not talking about
Wait, she's got. I know she's got a point.
I want to make a point here.
Let her go. Ladies first.
Yes, thank you. This
That's
country
sexist.
was.
Yeah.
This
It
country. No, it's equality.
I embrace it.
I get to talk.
Hashtag me too.
See,
Hashtag
she understands the
me too.
show. You got to fight for your spot,
Yes!
man.
It's so true.
Clickable moment right there.
Yes.
That's good, right there.
Yes. That's the equivalent of my wife saying,
Equality.
"What's yours is mine, and what's mine's mine."
Yeah, and you'll like it.
And you'll like it.
One point that I wanted to make is that Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln, okay, both of them agree on people, coming in as immigrants, okay, and giving people the opportunity and the human right of being able to be happy, whatever they choose to live.
Whatever the happiness is.
Because you might be born in one country and be miserable if you stay there. So most people who want to come to America where it's wealthy and you have all these kinds of freedoms. Okay, so but they understood that if you have a huge amount of people coming in a very short time period of time, those people could actually change your society because they come in with their culture, okay, that which they would teach their kids, okay. So that's called assimilation. Many people hate that,
right?
But immigrants are supposed to come here and assimilate, okay.
Woo! They don't know. They haven't been told that.
Well, if they have a negative feeling about that word.
She's a clickable moment factory, isn't she?
I'm telling you, that is a clickable moment.
All right, so
flee a country and bring that country's culture here. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Exactly. Why would those founding fathers want people to assimilate? Well, because they wanted to keep this country under the principles of God Himself. Okay. Right. So, if you get a lot of people from other countries that don't believe in God, the same God that we believe in,
right,
then we don't want to change the country. If you come here, you need to assimilate and become part of this country. which is
Why
the
come here
greatest
and
nation on
recreate
earth.
what you ran away from?
Exactly, and that will be the Latinos. Okay, and that's why I'm
That's-
teaching
Well,
them.
but that's anyone who,
So
who
true.
comes and doesn't assimilate.
Exactly.
True.
Anyone, yeah.
True.
And
It
you know,
doesn't-
for the Latinos, it's not a matter of religion; it's a matter of capitalism and socialism. You know,
Yeah,
culture,
they,
yeah.
they are capitalist people because they believe in working hard, you know, and achieving the American dream. So they come all the way to America for that dream, which is capitalism. And then what happened? They get bombarded by liberal philosophy and like, oh, we're gonna take care of you. You know, you don't need to work. You know, you need to have all these benefits. Now that the
Right.
American people are
Let's give you something.
no, and that doesn't work. And they forget their target was basically to come here to America because of capitalism, and they get so into the socialist system, and they lose the whole point why they
Of
came
why they
here.
came, right.
Yeah, assimilation. I mean,
I'd like to address 2 points if I could real quick.
Yes, sir.
First one is we nowhere in here has I heard any single person talk about religion. Everyone has talked about God, which is on the spiritual side of things, not the religious side of things. Okay? And the reason that everybody can come up with points that have value is because of what God did with man. Everybody wants to know what the image of God is. It's really, really simple. He even said it. He demonstrated what he said. He said, let us, when he's talking to himself, let us make man in our own image. What's the image of God? No matter what the religion is, the image of God is that of Creator. So each one of you, each one of us, every person on the visiting with us, we are all creators. We create. And what we create, we think is true. That's why we have these discussions where we rub against each other. Because we're
I'm ready for that.
we're
okay.
we're
That man's gonna come at you like a
Wait a
spider.
minute.
There's
I thought you looked at me there for a minute.
I was looking at Joe.
I had a little uncomfortable moment over here.
So now,
Whole new definition of big spoon.
now we all know what the image of God is, and that everybody.
I gotta get that other image out of my mind. That's all I say.
Everybody.
How about those Astros?
That's right. No. When's Game 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Those Rockets.
So all the discussion is we're all on our special thing, and we're talking about the whole spirit of everything. If the spirit of God, the attitude of God, the culture of God, because we'll call it the culture of kindness, okay? No matter what the culture was throughout history, they designed it to have a culture of kindness, even though there was brutality in all of those
Yeah,
things.
that wasn't very kind.
What at the foundation of it, what
Yeah.
part of what changed it was the kind for the culture of kindness, and God represents the culture of kindness.
Love.
Now,
God is love.
whether an atheist wants to agree with God or not, they want kindness. Okay, so they want the characteristics and the results and the evidence
That's a great point.
that come out from the concept of God, Christianity, spirituality. Again, I make the distinction between religion, which is rule based, and spirituality, which is relationship
Relationship based. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
and
That's, I mean, it's
There's a minor disagreement.
Yeah,
that's all right. It's a very valid point though, because
Very.
as I alluded
Good
to
job.
with my response to your argument, I'm like, it might makes right, right? So in a godless world, right, morality, call it whatever you want to call it, is strictly based on that concept. Might makes right, whether it's intellectual or whether it's physical, right? And so, prove me otherwise. Give me any valid reason where you can say you have a morality that should be enforced upon me apart from God, where your opinion is superior to mine, right?
Right.
There is none. You get 3 people to agree with you versus my one opinion. Now you start talking about social contracts.
Yep.
Great, social contracts produce slavery. How's that working out?
Yeah.
Right? I can go down the list of all sorts of things that most people now consider morally reprehensible that were mob rule kind of things, right? It was only a theistic idea where it was higher than man's opinion that said that was not right, right? And so give me an argument. I've never seen one. It's an open challenge to anybody to put it out there. And I'll say, let's spar. I'll break your leg.
Well,
and I'm right.
I'm
So-
holding tenuously to a point that ties back to both the last two comments that we read. So
Well, I want to read
I'm gonna let
Samantha's comment
Scott-
too, but go ahead.
I know. No, he's next.
I was saying it for the production crew. I wanted to read Sam's comment.
Yeah, but he's next, and then I got to hold to this point. If I can keep it, no squirrels.
I think I'm trying to be succinct about it, and it's just, I've said it before on a previous show. Want to touch base back to it because Samantha commented on hers. Separation of church and state. First of all, that's due to a lack of evidentiary study. It's so misconstrued. It didn't have any intention ever.
But to be fair, her comment was more well thought out than what
Yes,
you typically hear of
absolutely.
the arguments there. So I got to
Absolutely.
say
So,
that, and that's just not because Alex is here.
So tying in
No, it's not. It really isn't.
the separation of church and state
He throws
and the
things in
First
the studio.
Amendment,
You got to watch him.
the First Amendment freedom of religion. It's so I've used this since I was like 12 years old, and it's been accurate ever since then. And I'll use it now, just real quick. It is a freedom of religion, and not a freedom from religion. Right?
Exactly.
The idea is that you have the freedom, the choice, the self-dominion to decide for yourself which God, how many gods you choose to worship, and how you choose to worship them. However, that does not mean that our society
Melissa's
is not
calling. You want me to answer it? I'll
that
answer
our
it.
society is not a
in the floor.
Christian society based on Christian principles. So
I'll take
it
it.
is not a freedom from religion.
Hey,
babe,
Melissa.
I'm on the Wine No Wine show. You're beautiful. I love you.
Yay!
Those chocolate chip cookies I love so much.
She hung
please.
up.
Dang.
That's awesome. That's the
Hi,
first.
Melissa. Yes,
the
we've never had a
we never had a live
a
call.
call during the show. That's pretty awesome. Well, we can go to callers on the show now.
Somebody just wrote in, how to get a call?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So
what-
Samantha. Oh wait, you had a response?
I was tying into
Good,
the last
good,
two, and then
good.
we'll go to this. I know you're.
That's okay.
We're going long, Joe. Just deal with it.
Go long.
Going back to Jordan's comment.
She go a long time.
Because one of the things that Jordan was saying that is it's a very intelligent argument, but it also is somewhat misconstrued because you're relying, Jordan, on your subjective understanding of what all would entail involving all of God and government.
Right.
And what our founders believed ought to be promoted, I don't know if I'm looking here or here, I don't care, is Christianity with liberty of conscience to all men, right? And that's one of the things I was tying to that 1892 Supreme Court decision. That was one of the points that they cited was a decision that was made, I think, in the court of Pennsylvania, was that it wasn't Christianity with regard to tithes and other,
Right.
mantras of religion, okay? Because what our founders understood is that religion
Not
is
the
man-made.
rules of the religion.
And well, that's
But to
that's
the
the
spirit.
vehicle.
But
Well,
to
that's
the
the vehicle.
Right.
The religion is the vehicle to get to the relationship, right? And that's where we all differ. There's different nuances between the various faiths, from the different Protestant religions to Catholicism or whatever else. But we are trying to get to the same place, and that's where our founders agreed that general Christianity should be promoted among the people because, to John Adams, that famous quote we always cite together, without a religious and moral people, our Constitution is wholly unsuitable to govern anyone else,
Yep.
right?
Well,
So
I got pretty bold
I'm
with
in
that
the middle of this.
statement.
Let me get, because I'll lose it, man. I'm telling you, I
Go.
the squirrels, yeah.
Go.
So that's part one of that, is to say that there is a basic understanding of Christianity that all of the various denominations agree upon, right? That we can promote with general good conscience. That was Jordan's first point. He's like, if you can't involve all of God in government, then how can you involve any of it? Well, we're involving look, I love the C.S. Lewis quote. You show me a God I could understand, I would never believe in him. You're talking about a God that created every dimension we can possibly imagine and lives outside of those dimensions. We can't understand him.
Right.
So that's important to understand. To the second point, Samantha's second comment, there was a minor nuance there. Can we pull that back up?
Which
Her-
we have.
the- yeah, right.
Oh, second comment. Okay.
Yeah,
That's the first one.
the second comment we read, her first
Okay.
comment, right. Because her last point was to say the church had so much power they could override the king. That's not what was happening.
It was the opposite, actually.
It was very much the opposite. The reason we have a separation of church and state is to keep the government out of the church, not to keep the church out of the government. We wanted the principles of Christianity to be practiced in government, which is why John Jay said that Americans should select and prefer Christians for their representatives and their rulers, because they understand, the best citizen is the Christian citizen. There's quote after quote after quote. And my point in bringing up that 1892 Supreme Court decision was I love how the court worked at that time. Nowadays, we have a Supreme Court that looks to the legislation and tries to find any possible loophole through the eye of the needle that they can thread some kind of way to get around the legislation that was passed. This Supreme Court in 1892, and I encourage people to read the actual text of the decision, it'll blow your mind. It's amazing, because the court actually visited the debates and the topics of conversation, the speeches that were held on the floor of the Congress, to look at what was the issue that they were trying to remedy, and what was the end result, to determine had the law been actually applied correctly.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they then made the case, because the case that I'm citing was the United States of Government versus the Holy Trinity Church, right? And they were saying that...
Are we going to go for this question?
Hell yeah.
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to go for this
Yeah,
question.
Let me wrap this up.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
They were saying that the church had violated a law because they had brought from overseas a very well-known pastor to spread the gospel. And the court compared that to like a hospital hiring a well-renowned surgeon. They're like, this is not what the law was meant to represent. But beyond these matters, no purpose of legislation can ever be taken a church in doing its utmost to spread the gospel, because this is a Christian nation. That's what the Supreme Court was saying in that decision. It ought to be mandatory teaching in our school system to understand our heritage and our foundation, even if you don't agree with it.
It ought to be.
That's what we came from.
I'm going to make two super succinct points, and I'm going to read Nicole's question, because this is a great question, and we'll
bet
kind of
you don't.
we'll wrap up.
I bet we're here
on this
another
point.
45 minutes.
Right? No. Two succinct questions. Number one, Samantha, to understand specifically the context, the King of England wanted to get a divorce. The church would not allow him because he did not have grounds for divorce. He simply wanted to go screw around with another woman. And the church said, yeah, that's not a valid reason. So he said, well, F you, I'm the king, and I'm going to start my own church. It was just I'm just saying what the king said. I mean, that was his own words.
That was a quote?
It was a quote. Right?
It's a F-bomb.
He said,
It's the F-bomb.
he said, I'm going to start my own church. I'm going to call it the Church of England, and in my church, I get to divorce whoever I want to divorce. That's where it came from. And so that is specifically government telling the church, I don't care what your rules are, I will form my own. And so that is what our founding fathers were trying to prevent, was government enforcing their views on religion onto churches that they had to accept.
And
That's
then
what they were
the
protecting
church
against.
spread to the people.
Right, right.
The church
So-
is the arm.
Here's the part that
Move-
this part
he's-
makes me laugh, is
Right.
that we have over 300,000 different, distinct denominations of Christianity. How are we going to get all those to be in charge of everything?
Well,
All right. So look, hey, I don't want to get rabbit trail. I'm not even going to make my second point. I'm just
next
going
one.
Huh?
Next one I start.
Okay. Okay.
Quality, man. We got
Right.
three guys doing one.
I'm foregoing my second
We're at a
point.
disadvantage.
In the interest of time, I'm foregoing my second
The
point.
one makes it 3 instead of 4.
Right.
I guess we're not tall enough.
I'm the moderator. I don't count. I'm the moderator. I don't count. But I want to go to Nicole's point. Nicole Thalsey's point here. Nicole, great gal. She's been on the show. Love this girl. She said, and this is a great question. I want to kind of wrap up on this thought, right? How do we secure our beliefs before Hamas takes over our government? All right.
Clink.
Yes.
That's the core of the whole question.
Right. So check it out. Because Hamas has a God. Hamas has a religious angle. Okay. No, they do. All people have a God. All people have a God.
Yeah.
Right.
Their God is their ideology, though.
Right.
It's not a
So
God.
my point is,
They don't have a God in a religion. They have God religion.
all right. So check it out. To her point, we get enough Hamas
Your
people here.
beliefs.
We have enough Hamas people here, and we're arguing about should God be involved in government.
Okay.
What happens when we have enough Hamas people and they say, well, your God is now like that vague term is our God,
Okay,
and we
well,
want to institute our government.
Can I say something?
Yes,
really
ma'am,
fast?
it's
Kinda-
all
I'm,
you.
I'm gonna kind of crack a joke. Hopefully, it's funny. Okay. You know,
It's funny.
you
You're
know
right.
what?
That'll be a big
You
difference.
laugh.
Wait, listen, guys, listen.
You
Okay,
laugh
but
now.
You know how the word for never in Spanish?
Uh-uh.
Hamas. It's never gonna happen.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty
That's
cool.
probably the most important thing I've ever learned on this show.
Yeah.
J-A is the letter J.
Yes.
A-M-A.
I love it.
It's just not gonna happen. Okay,
Wow.
not in America. Okay, because America is a country founded under God, and that will be the Christian God. Okay,
Yep.
and if you're gonna go to Christianity, and you know, I understand that there's a lot of different kind of religions. Churches that are Christians. So, but the whole point is that of all these church arrangements that humankind creates, is that they're all, the Christian God. They're all following the Bible.
Yeah, but,
Okay, the
that's
Bible.
that's what they're going to argue with, because see, it doesn't say freedom of Christian religion. It says freedom of religion.
That's
Yes.
right.
So the question is, how do we argue for freedom of religion and say, yeah, but this one is different?
Well,
But no, there is a
Freedom of religion, but not that
Yeah,
one.
freedom
there's
of
a way to
religion.
do it. There's a way
There
to do
is.
it.
Freedom
I know
of religion.
that's a great
Wait.
point.
Yeah, freedom of religion, but also the founding fathers also warn us that when immigration comes in big numbers, they can change us, and we don't want that to happen.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, freedom of religion, but with certain limitations of keeping our country under the Creator, which is under the Christian religion.
How come you
Okay.
came from Argentina and know that?
I know!
People
Oh
in
my
California
God!
don't know that.
That's right. That's
Well,
amazing.
well, you
I'm
know
very
why?
impressed. I really
You
am.
know why?
Very impressed.
People in California, I was actually reading about the Hispanics in California compared to the Hispanics in Texas.
Different.
Okay, the reason why
Texas
the
is just
Latinos
better.
in
We all know this.
California, the reason why in California too, there's a ton of Latinos, but they are liberal. Okay, you know why that happened? Because they were trying, the political system, the GOP was trying to gain votes. When Clinton was elected, so they basically went after the Hispanics, and when you go after the Hispanics for just to get those votes, it doesn't work. So you're gonna get enemies. Okay, that did not happen in Texas. In Texas, even though the GOP still attacks them in certain ways, and I'm fighting, to educate people on that. But it didn't happen in the same degree as in California. That's why the Texas Latinos are conservative, and also the fact that Latinos, when they educate themselves, they become more conservative. They vote Republican.
Right.
Can I
Okay?
ask you kind of a
Yes.
semi-unrelated question?
Uh-huh.
Just semi. This goes to immigration, but
Uh-huh.
I've held for a long time that Latinos who actually follow the rules in immigrating here
Mm-hmm.
are also against illegal immigration. Now I know that
Mm-hmm.
your ideology is more aligned in conservatism, so
Yeah.
I get that you're influenced by your circle your circle of
Most
influence.
Latinos actually are
But
conservative.
in your experience, would you say that that's true, that most Latinos are against illegal immigration?
Well, I would say that most Latinos that went through the whole process, like it took me 10 years, to get my citizenship, even though I was married to an American. So, we would want them to
Right.
go through the same process and make it fair. So I think it's a matter of fairness, okay?
Yes.
But I think they also feel for the families, back in their countries, and they will want them to be here.
There's a
This-
sentiment because they understand why they
yeah,
came.
it takes a while, We
Yeah.
also understand that the system here, the immigration system is broken. It just doesn't work. That's why we have so many illegals in here. So what I would advise the Latino is the ones that are here legally, go vote. Your voice is valuable. Go vote and tell the government, that we need to reform immigration. So we can fix things, by
Right.
complaining.
We have a
whining
whole other
and-
show here.
We
Yeah,
do.
that doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
But
okay?
a different definition and understanding what reform means too.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I think-
Immigration is definitely a whole other show.
I just wanted to
think-
ask that one perspective question, but I want you to
coming
know
back
that
to you. Yeah, coming back to you. Okay.
I want to bring back to the subject.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Hamas. Let's go back to
I think
Hamas.
all
Islam.
human
Islam.
beings, everybody, it doesn't matter what race you are, we all have a sense of fairness, okay? And I think we all understand and feel for those people that are born in countries that are not privileged, okay, and they had to suffer. So it is a human right given by God, okay? If you're born in a place, you don't have to be stuck in there, okay? Apply through the right means to come to this country if you want to, but you gotta do it right.
Yeah,
You know,
and I agree with that. I think that there's an immigration policy that you have to. It's not about taking the refuse of every society. It's about you should earn your place to be able to come here, but you got to go through the proper process.
You mentioned
Okay,
earlier
okay,
about
I just
breaking
want
the
to-
law.
I don't want to rabbit trail anymore in immigration.
Let me bring it back. I just want to say that if you will forget all your conservatism and republicanism, come over to the Constitution Party. I will start your very own fan club page.
Okay.
I will do it myself.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I'll be the
You're
first.
awesome.
I'll be the first fan on the page.
But you know what? The funny thing about it is that I think it was George Washington. Yeah, George Washington said that we are not only wanting the immigration to be the more respected and opulent of those countries, but we want the people that are poor and needy. And they need to come here. You know, we understand that.
Agreed.
We're talking about all kinds
It's not
of
about
immigrants.
status. It's about do you add value to the society? If you come here and work and build your business and you end up contributing to the society, that's what we're aiming for.
Well,
it's not
and
about status.
This
I'm an immigrant
Argentinian
too,
woman knows more about our government
She's amazing. I worked
than
in our
most
party.
of the people I know.
It goes back to that word she said before, assimilation.
Yes.
Right? Do you see America for the wonderful blessing to the world that it is?
Exactly.
And do you want to come and embrace that and become part of that?
Yes.
Or do you see America as a greedy, selfish, violent, horrible nation, and you want to come and be a parasite on it? And
All right.
Which takes
Yeah,
us
it's
right
not
back
a
to Samantha's
Latino.
comment.
Yeah.
Right. So look, we have to wrap up. We can wrap up wherever we want. My daughter's a big fan of flashing the time for me. So
I thought you were going to say she was a fan of flashing. I'm like, oh,
no. But you know what? This for me is going to be a topic, and it actually may be a forced topic for me. I've only done it a couple times on all the show, but it's become so relevant over the last few weeks for me. I've cited it and referenced it so many times that I'm like, this is a topic, and most people are completely unaware. In 1963, it was entered into the congressional record, the 45 stated objectives of the Communist Manifesto for overthrowing America. Right? Nobody knows what they are, right? We have an enemy in our country.
because it's being enacted.
control education.
Right. Oh, I mean, there's 45 things. If you read them, even if you were completely like, this guy's a nut, he's a conspiracy theorist,
Yep.
he's wearing an aluminum foil hat going on, he's a nut job. And I promise you, if you read them, you'll be like, holy
Wow.
crap, right? Everything, you just go down the line. And
You'd almost think it's a joke that someone wrote this after the fact.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I just want to correct one thing on that. The black helicopters that fly over Walmart, they're really not black. They're dark blue.
I feel so much better.
Right.
The New York Times just posted an article 2 weeks ago on Karl Marx's birthday,
Oh,
talking
man.
about how Karl Marx had it all right
Yeah.
in
So
our
listen,
own country.
This is, why even in the context of this conversation, it's incredibly relevant, right? In the 1950s, the Communist Party basically took the stance of, how do we overthrow America, right? We were in the midst of a Cold War, this battle going on between two nations, and they said,
McCarthyism going on at
right.
the time.
and McCarthy was right. I mean, he was like literally like 90% of the people he called on the carpet for being, communist.
Listen,
Right?
that's a whole other show right there.
It is.
Because
Can I
what you
tell
just said, McCarthyism.
Yeah.
I had
That
to,
is so fun. Go
I
ahead.
got to
Yeah.
wrap up the thought. I got to talk a lot. I apologize. I got to wrap it up. But it's relevant to this subject to say that in the 50s, that was the moment in space and time in America where the communists said, how do we overthrow America? They're a superpower. We're at odds. And so they came up with a strategy to conquer our nation. That happened in the 50s. By 1963, they had come up with a complete plan of attack that was so well known and so publicly stated that it is entered into the congressional record. right? It was read on the House floor. They talked about it. I'm not some conspiracy nut. This is your reality. And if you read it, you can Google it anywhere.
Look up the Venona Papers.
Communist Manifesto to Overthrow America. That's all you got to search. It's all over the place.
Right.
If you go down the line, right, and read off every point, get rid of any concept of God. God does not exist. Destroy the family unit. Promote
moral relativism.
Right, moral relativism. Promote promiscuity. Promote homosexuality. Promote sexual deviance. Infiltrate institutions of higher learning. You go down the line in all these areas. Shocker, we're there. They did a freaking great job. High five to the communists for reaching their objectives. So sorry, America.
The reality is
Right.
McCarthy was a momentary setback for them. because-
Yeah, yes,
You know,
really,
that-
exactly.
Yeah,
It was,
And
just,
so,
it was just a point to dig in deeper.
dial this all in back to our subject at hand.
Yes.
Because,
Very nicely done.
thank you, sir. I have my moments. Because the comment at hand was for the atheists was we have to get rid of morality. We have to get rid of this idea that there is a higher power from whence our rights come. Morality has to be subjective. That's the only way their ideology works, right? And so, is there a basis for God for our government? I'll let you guys chime in and respond to all that, but that is the eternal struggle at hand.
I've
between the
hardly
two
talked at
positions.
all, so I'll let Ruth
Yeah.
go first.
Go ahead.
So,
I'm done talking. I'm through. Next time I'm talking is just to wrap up the show.
Look at that
basically,
subtle hint.
basically, we know that this country was founded under God the Creator, which was a Christian God. Okay, so if we want to talk about morality, we need to measure ourselves with the instruction manual, which was basically the Bible. Okay, so if you want to live your life morally, then go back to the Bible, read what it says, and that's how we're supposed to do it. Okay, and if we love
Clickable
America,
moment number 11 or whatever it
if
is.
we- if we love-
11:07.
if we love America, then yeah, let's go focus back on the Bible. Okay, and we're gonna be just fine. Okay, and then
True story.
yeah, about Karl Marx, you know what he said? I was reading today about it. He actually understood that when people get together and they move the economy, and the economy grows, there's a degree of equality, okay? And that brings basically capitalism,
Yeah.
which he didn't know, okay? But, he basically was supporting capitalism, people working together, including the Latinos, moving the economy, okay? Bring back equality to everybody, okay?
If you want to understand why very wealthy people argue for communism or socialism, take a Bernie Sanders who has 3 houses, all multi-million-dollar houses, beach houses, etc. Yet he's arguing for socialism.
The rest of you all share in the distribution of what's out there. I
Yeah.
got mine.
Because he got them from us anyway.
Right.
Okay, the whole point is that there is no socialism. You can't give money away unless you have the money to give. And what builds the money? Capitalism.
Well, if you want to understand why very wealthy people argue for capitalism, just examine Vladimir Putin, who is undocumented but easily argued the wealthiest man in the world.
You mean socialism?
Huh?
Yeah, you said.
You said argue for capitalism.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's what I said.
Communism is what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or
Just
socialism.
examine,
Yeah.
communism. Just examine Vladimir Putin, who happens to be one of, whether you agree or not, just study it. Look at the facts. Wealthiest people in the world, because wealthy people who are not morally driven understand that if I can control the means of capitalism and bring them under my control, I can siphon off whatever I want, which
right.
is exactly what has happened in Russia, which is why he's the wealthiest guy in the world, and he can keep you in poverty and under check and control. Welcome to your economic worldview.
Think about this. If we could
Socialism.
just institute a 1 penny tax per year on every single American and divide it between the 5 of us,
Right. Exactly.
we're great.
Exactly. We're good. Screw you all. We're
You'd like that.
great.
You'd be taken care of too, right?
And we'll take care of you. You can trust me.
And it sounds good in the beginning, so we all go along with
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
And slowly you realize, well, hey,
I'm a
now I
good
don't
guy.
have an incentive to work, so I stop working. Now it's harder to get those pennies. More people quit work, and it's just a perpetual thing until you have 60 billion people killed.
I'm a good guy. I do good things with your penny. You like me, so just throw your penny to me. I do good things with it.
You can trust me with your penny more
Just
than
don't
you.
ask questions.
I buy lots of wine. I have a good time.
That's right.
You question me, I break your leg and throw you out of line.
I knew I recognized you from somewhere.
And they'll give you wine.
Right? Hey, is
For
it
the
any,
first time ever, I'm scared of Joe Warsack right now.
is it any coincidence that he's also an 8th degree black belt?
Louis Yakup's
rides
Smirnoff
horses
is on
bareback.
point.
Yeah, he rides horses bareback, or bears, depending on your man.
Without his shirt on.
Right,
Okay.
without a shirt on, yes.
So-
What a great way to end the show.
Do we get to rate and final comment?
Yeah, you know what? We'll rate and final. Okay,
We'll
final
be done by
comment.
7, folks. We'll be done by 7, I
Okay,
promise.
rating,
1
okay.
minute, 1 minute final comment and a rating.
Okay. So mine, I got a final comment that I just love. To everybody out there in Hamas, I have one word.
Jamás.
Hamas.
Hamas!
Ain't gonna happen.
Thinkable! Thinkable!
So, Joe, I mean, whether they're right or wrong, I just hate when people are like kind of smug and guess stuff. But he was right. This red wine was a lot better, and it did have a lot less tannins, which I think I define as the bite.
True story.
And so, it's still not going to get a great rating from me because it's still a red wine, but a rating from me in the 3.75 area is a really good red wine rating. So.
Wow.
For Scott, that's amazing.
That
That's
is
practically
amazing.
a 5 right there.
Yeah, that is.
We should have a Scott curve. Like if he says 3.75, it's really
Bump it
a
up
5.
to a 4.5.
All right.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it a 2. Okay, which way?
The new Scott.
Wow,
Alright,
really?
wait. You know why? Because it's not Argentinian.
You've offended me for the
Wait,
first
wait,
time.
let me
It's
say-
not Argentinian.
It's not Argentinian.
You wine racists. You wine nationalists.
Wait.
Alright, yeah.
Hamas.
Hamas.
Ain't gonna happen.
No.
That's so funny.
Let's move the American economy. So yeah, no, I switched it. Okay, let's 3.
No. All right, 3. All right.
Let's
all right.
move in the American economy.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
good.
For me, this wine is the second time I've had it. I have the same opinion of this wine. I drink it almost without notice.
No.
It's
That's dangerous.
right. But it's a very drinkable wine. It's very smooth. But at the same time, there's nothing about it that makes me go, wow, I love this wine, right? So I mean, bang for the buck, it's a great wine. But as far as like the wines that have knocked my socks off on the show, not as much. It's a very 3.75 solid wine for me.
Okay, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. The points that we
Okay.
do shades.
Guess
of
who
it.
invented that?
Really? Oh man.
Well, you know,
I missed that show.
So, out of 5 plums, what rating do you give it?
Oh, that was a cheap shot.
Oh man, I missed
These are
it.
plums.
Okay,
They're plums. I couldn't find a good grape. So
Oh, it really is a plum?
it really is.
Works out real
He's
good.
been on the show how many times?
Original Grapehead G2, right there.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Final thoughts and grape.
Well, I'm going to go with my final thoughts on the wine. I'm going to give it a 4 because I judge wine really easy. If I feel good when I drink it, it's good. If I don't feel good, different number. So all I go is feel good, feel bad. Feels good. I feel good right now, so
All
it must
right.
be a good wine.
All right. There we go.
So I'm going to wrap up my rating with a final thought as well. You know me, I take advantage. You give me an inch, I take a mile, right? I know, Joe. I frustrate Joe sometimes.
That's what
I'm going Dr. Vetter,
Pound me too, guys. Pound me too.
calm yourself down, sir. That was hilarious.
The comments are gonna rein you
Yeah,
in.
that's exactly right. So, in that Supreme Court decision that I spoke about, and this I want to direct this specifically to our friends or enemies in Hamas. There is the line, nor are we founded in any way upon the doctrines of those impostors. That's from the 1892 Supreme Court decision that ruled in part that America is a Christian nation. The impostors they were referencing, Hamas, was your false god, Allah. I just alienated a bunch of Muslims there, didn't I? But that's what
all of our Saudi friends just tuned it out.
That's right. That's what
I
our,
know,
that's what our
David, way to
United
go,
States
David.
Supreme Court from 1892
Saudi wine
said.
drinkers.
Right?
Iran.
They were saying
Gone.
very clearly. Now, I want to be clear. We welcome everybody
All three
because
of our fans in
I
Iran.
said this before. Hold on now. Hold on. You're causing a bunch of squirrels to run around. I'm going to lose it. All right. So our founders understood that there were a lot of different religions, and we welcome everybody. All we're saying is the morality we're tied to is the teachings and the doctrines of Jesus Christ. It's not about religions. It's about morals. And that's what they were pushing. In order to have the most moral society, and to wrap this all up to a point, you made a point earlier that made me think of this. One of my favorite quotes of all time, Dr. Benjamin Rush, right? He said, philosophers swing from their moorings upon all moral subjects when they stray from the Bible, right? And I'm paraphrasing it because I suck at remembering quotes. But he said, the Bible is the only perfect map of the human heart that has ever been published. Now, I'm sorry. If you're not a Christian nation, you don't have the guy that says that become the architect of your public education system, right? There are so many little nuances of evidence like that speak to the value that we are a Christian nation. Now, with that said, this was a wine that was surprising, and I got to tell you, the more that I drank the box wine, the more that I missed the original wine. This has never happened before. This is as close as I'm ever getting to a 5 so far. This is like a 4.9. This is my highest rating
4.9.
ever.
Why?
It was very
Why?
unique.
It's not Argentinian.
It was, I know, but you're a racist. You're a nationalist.
A wine nationalist.
Because you're a wine nationalist.
Let's go
No.
to free market.
I'll tell you what happened with it. It was a unique red wine. I've never tasted a combination like that before. And, you know, to quote Simon Cowell from the American Idol, right, it was memorable. It was something that stuck with me as we drank it more than any
give it
wine
to
we've
him.
ever drank. So 4.9.
And that's the beauty of wine,
That's
man.
right.
It's like art, you know. Some
So we're
people-
going to give him the box wine to take home so he'll remember
Exactly.
the
He'll
other.
Yeah, right,
remember
right.
the other
Make me
wine.
long. I'll be sitting at home forlorn going, I sure missed that wine. Say it again. What is it? Say it again.
Say it 3
Say
times
the
fast.
line.
Oh, good Lord.
Say it 3 times fast.
Yes.
Wait.
The Sporting Hills Montepulciano.
See, you did great.
Montepulciano.
Yeah, I feel like very Italian when I say that. So I feel so European.
I'm about to be a European.
Yes.
5-3-1,
As soon as
baby.
we shut this show down, we're gonna be European.
I'm glad David alienated the Muslims, because then I don't have to show my drawing of Muhammad and a camel.
Yeah,
Oh, please show it.
Give it to me.
No, that's not
No,
fit for a family audience.
Anybody, if you haven't seen it, Joe Rogan and the Texas Muslim comedy piece, it's freaking brilliant. He's like, you know, a certain group of people get really upset even if you draw their guy. He goes, so what happens? Texas promptly helped draw your Muhammad. Right? And he goes, and what happened? 2 guys showed up to shoot the place up. I mean, how much more of a trap could you have advertised? He goes, what happened to those 2 guys? Shot dead in the first 8 seconds.
So shameless plug. One of my friends on Facebook is Bosch Falston. He was the winner of the Draw Muhammad contest.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, the guy is, and here's what's amazing. The guy is incredibly intelligent. I encourage you to check him out. He is an atheist. Okay, go figure. But I got to
And
tell
still
you,
incredibly
the intellect and the dialogue that happens between him and people that challenge him is fantastic. And I really enjoy people like that. Look him up, BOSCHFAWSTIN, Bosch Falston. He talks about what happened there. You know that there was an FBI surveillance team on the shooter. They followed him to the site before he ever got there and did nothing about it.
Huh.
There's a whole bunch of strange stuff happening. I encourage you guys to follow him. I'm going to tag Bosch in the show and let him know we talked about
Kind
it.
of like the Parkland shooter.
FBI dropping the ball forever.
Yeah.
Parkland shooter investigated twice, reported to the local police 29 times.
No, this was
did nothing
even
about
worse. This was the day of the shooting. There was an FBI team following him to the point he stopped and got out of his car, and they were not involved in taking him down. That was a local law enforcement agent that took him down.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah, check that out. Pam Geller is also awesome.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, she's
we are
bad,
going
Arnold.
to exit out for the day. Another show in the can.
We're
as
early.
They say.
It's
I know.
only 6:30.
We're early.
I thought it was going to 7.
I know. It's like, you know.
Am I scheduled clear? How about you guys?
Here, hold on.
got
Hold on.
21
We got
minutes.
20 more minutes. Hold on. Here we go.
Well, you know what?
Meanwhile, the production crew is flashing the time on the screen.
No, we got at least 15 more minutes. Hold on. I got more wine.
They're gonna go on strike.
Okay, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We have such a great time
Hell
on the,
no, we won't film. Hell no, we won't film.
we have such
The Wine No Show.
yes.
No show.
We have such a good time on the show, guys.
No, I'm fine.
We have such a
Have
good
to
time
try-
on the show
I have to try
because
sometime tonight.
because
Hashtag me too.
the
Okay, wait. You
there's
know
so many
what?
little side comments happening over here.
There's like a
one thing
countdown
I
to
wanna
go dark.
say, hey guys, one thing I want to say, you know what, to the Latinos, you know, because I represent the Latino community, okay, you guys were born in a country that hasn't been blessed, like the United States has been blessed. And you gotta question yourself and think, okay, why has this country been blessed? Because it's a country under God, okay?
Amen.
And we are enjoying those blessings. So if you were born in a country
Preach!
wait, if you were
Give
born
me
in
some
a country
pom-poms.
that you do not like and is not making you happy, it's your human right to move into America through the right means, okay? Through
Do
the
it right.
means, and you know, we can all enjoy ourselves. But that would be the right thing.
I,
And we gotta fix the immigration system.
the link to the Ruth fan club will be posted.
You're my biggest fan.
Latino liberator.
I think it's
okay?
going to be on the constitutionalist page here
yes,
soon.
yes. I mean, I'm just telling you,
Because
she's
you know
got
what?
it dialed in,
I live
folks.
here more than in my own country, so I chose to be an American. Okay?
And we
Nice.
thank God we have you. You're
Yeah.
awesome. You really are. Thank you.
Yes.
I
Yes.
never
I got-
met her before.
I ain't
My
got
hat's
nothing
off
to
to
add
you,
to
sir.
that. I ain't got nothing to add to that. I'm like, hey, thanks for tuning in, folks.
Oh wait, one more. No,
Look.
just kidding.
Our production crew doesn't have their hands on the keyboard. That means I get to keep talking.
They,
I don't hear any music.
Right, I know.
you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we've been off the air for like 10 minutes.
Are we done? No, we're done.
Listen.
Alex pulls a carpet. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Hey, did y'all notice we had music in the studio tonight?
We did. I know. It was
We
awesome.
did.
Yes.
I like that little.
Yeah, yes, I miss
Nice.
it. I miss it. You know, so I had to get the production crew. We got all fancy schmancy, and now we can like feed the music straight to the live feed.
Oh, nice.
There it is.
There
But-
it is.
Alright.
But we don't get to have it in the studio anymore. But now I tasked them to put it back into the studio just because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Got a little salsa, you know, a little happening, whatever merengue.
Look at that drummer. He's got a little heavy foot going on.
It's
there,
actually
man.
called Salsa Nights.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Oh,
song
okay,
is called
okay.
Salsa Nights.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
You can
So-
teach Scott how to dance right now.
No, I can do tango.
Tango. All right.
Oh, okay. He would
Thank
know
you
the
guys
difference.
for tuning in.
I would not know the difference.
Thank y'all for tuning in. We thank you for being a part of the show. Share the show, like the show,
Later, guys. Next week.
share it. We're just trying to save America one civil conversation at a time.
God bless America.
Yes, yes.